Welcome to Vegan Business Talk with Katrina Fox, author of Vegan Ventures, Start and Grow an Ethical Business. Hello and welcome to episode 128 of Vegan Business Talk. I'm Katrina Fox, journalist, author and PR consultant and founder of Vegan Business Media, a content events and training platform providing success strategies for vegan business owners and entrepreneurs. Now, just quickly before we jump into the main part of the show, I wanted to let you know about my online PR course and group coaching program, Vegans in the Limelight. Now, this is a 12-month online program where you have video training that teaches you everything you need to know about how to do your own PR. You can ask questions on the platform, and you can also post your proposed pitches and media releases before sending them to journalists to get my feedback. You also get to jump on a monthly live group call where you can ask whatever questions you want about your business, and you can get tailored help from me on anything to do with raising the profile of your brand. So it might be that I look at your website and give you some feedback, or how to improve your LinkedIn profile, and other marketing and PR topics. So if you'd like to find out more about that, just hop on over to veganbusinessmedia.com and you'll see a link there for Vegans in the Limelight. And now on to the main part of the show. In this episode, I interviewed Dave Graham, co-founder of Vegan Web Design in Queensland, Australia. Originally from Yorkshire in the UK, Dave spent his early career in software development, working for large corporates including Walt Disney and BHP. Since going vegan 6 years ago, he's now committed to and passionate about using digital marketing to help those helping animals and the environment. Vegan Web Design, which is run by Dave and his wife Sian, works with small animal sanctuaries through to large international ethical non-profit organisations to help raise awareness and increase donations for their cause. The company also works with ethical businesses worldwide to promote and sell their products and services online, offering web design and development and digital marketing solutions. In this interview, Dave discusses the key mistakes vegan business owners make with the design of their websites and what to do instead, the key mistakes vegan business owners make at the back end of their websites and what to do instead, the pros and cons of using themes to design your website, how to keep your website loading fast and why this is important, the essential plugins all WordPress websites need and how to choose the best plugins, what security measures you need on your site and why, what kinds of regular maintenance should ideally be done on a website each month and why, and much more. Here's the interview with Dave Graham from Vegan Web Design. Hello, Dave. Welcome to the show.
Hey, Katrina. Thanks very much for having me on.
Well, I'm very happy to have you on. And as listeners, rather, not readers, listeners can tell, Dave is an Aussie based in Melbourne, Australia. And you've got a strong background in IT and web design, and you help vegan businesses with their web design and digital marketing. And in fact, my partner Tracy and I hire Dave to do our web maintenance every month. So very happy to have you on the show to dig into some topics around website design and development and maintenance particularly. But first of all, let's kick off with your why, Dave. So as I mentioned, you got a background in IT and you're now putting those skills to helping vegan and ethical businesses. What are your drivers for doing what you do?
Yeah, we fell into this by accident, really. We were creating a website for a little B&B, vegan B&B down in Victoria.
I think I know that one. Is it bed and broccoli?
It certainly is, yes.
I thought so. Yeah, they're in my book. Okay, cool. Yeah.
And we started there, and we developed, having a background in IT. So they said, "Oh, can you build us a website?" And we went, "Yeah, sure, no problem." And we built that one, and then we built another one, and then the business came from that, really. So the reason we do what we do, some of our clients they look after elephants in North America, They look after chimpanzees. We've got an equine rescue sanctuary as well. And we don't have that space and that ability and those skills to do that for the animals. We'd love to, but where our skills lie is in the tech space. So we love looking after clients who are more focused on helping the animals, and we can help them with their tech. So I guess that's where we get our satisfaction from.
I love that. And I think it's really important. And I think you said something really important there is about using our skills to do what we can for the animals. Because like you say, we can't all be looking after elephants or, doing, running sanctuaries or what have you. So, and I think particularly in the area of tech, it's really important to have ethical vegans who are really, really good at what they do. Because I'm sure we all know and have experienced ourselves, maybe not you because you're the tech people yourself, but, kind of bad tech people, who rip people off or don't know what they're doing and blah, blah. So I think it's really great that you're doing this. And I think I'm looking forward to this episode myself because I know I'm going to learn some stuff and I know that our listeners are as well. So let's kick off. So let's talk a little bit about the web design and maintenance side of things. What are some of the key mistakes vegan business owners make with their website in terms of design?
Okay, great question. In terms of design, so I suppose when somebody's picking a website or a template for a website, they fall in love with the bells and whistles of that template on the demo. And
that's so true. Sorry, I'm laughing because I recognise myself in that. Yeah, go on.
Absolutely. And hey, I love shiny objects as well, and I get drawn to that's nice. I want to go and play with that. But one of the biggest issues is people will fall in love with a theme and go, right, I want that as my website, and then they can't put their content into all of the little boxes and all of the sections that the theme is providing. And depending on some of those themes, they are flexible, and some of them aren't. Most of them aren't. So it's really about doing it the other way around to work out, well, what is it that you're trying to say? What content do you have that your readers and your visitors are going to find of use and value, and then designing something around that. So that's probably the number one.
Okay.
The second one is something we come across far too frequently, and we use WordPress. So we love WordPress. We think it's a fantastic platform for building out content on the web. It's very, very popular, very, very flexible. But one of the things that even WordPress don't do themselves particularly well is when they're educating users on how to use it. So we've got the posts and the pages. And we've ended up with a number of websites where we've had 300 pages and 10 posts.
Oh, no.
And yeah, it should be the other way around. And there's a reason for that. It's because in WordPress, there's something called the WordPress loop. And the WordPress loop basically starts at the top of all of your posts and then goes through each one and then works out, do I need to display this on this page, whether it's a category of media posts or a category of recipe posts. And it just goes through one by one by one, all the way through that loop until it gets to the end. Now, it doesn't do that with pages. So it just makes it very much more difficult to work with a website that's been created incorrectly. So it's important to get that site architecture correct, and get that structure right. And so that's probably the second one. The third one, this can be a little bit contentious. Your website is not about you. It's and it's a little bit tongue in cheek, but it's not about you. It's about your visitor. It's about what you can do for your visitor. Yeah. So if you're selling a product, it's about what product you are selling to that person. Typically, people go searching on Google for solutions to their problems. They have a problem and they're looking to you to solve that. So if it's an accountant, somebody's looking to get their tax done. They don't necessarily care where that accountant went to school, went to uni, whatever it might be. An about page is important, but it's not about the particular business owner. It's more about what the business owner can do for the end customer, for the end visitor. really.
I totally love that. I've done a whole podcast episode and blog post all about that, and to say, yeah, pretty much the same thing. It's about, how you can help them. That's brilliant.
Absolutely.
I'm glad you've raised that. Excellent. Those are really good. Now, you mentioned the structure, Dave. So can you talk us through the structure of a website? And obviously, websites are designed differently, and there's different trends that come in, the websites, the latest fashion. But can you just talk us through the structure of a website in terms of what elements are essential, and in what order, and whether if above the fold is still a thing now that most people, or a lot of people, are accessing their sites on the mobiles even more. And by above the fold, that's a term, I think you can probably explain it better, but where you see it before you have to use the scroll button to scroll down on your website. I'm sure you can probably explain that a bit better, but what are the essential elements and structures of a website?
Sure. No, you've hit the nail on the head there, Katrina. That's perfect. It is indeed all of the area you see before you need to scroll. What we're finding is a lot of people are using their mobile to do their searches. They might be on the train, on a bus, in between meetings, and they're just doing a bit of Googling, and they find something, and then they'll bookmark it and go back to the site on a desktop. So yes,
interesting. Okay.
Yeah, so yes, above the fold is less important than it used to be, but it's still important.
Yeah.
And you still also have the concept of above the fold on a mobile as well. It's just you just got less area to play with. So typically we would, and these things we conduct audits as well of websites, and these are some of the things that we look for in those kind of audits. So we would look for an obvious contact number. Don't make it difficult for your customer to contact you if indeed that's what you want them to do. Whether you want them to call you, make sure your phone number is there. Make sure it's clickable from a mobile as well. So as soon as they click that link, they can dial that number.
Yeah.
If it's a contact form and you want to move people through the contact form rather than a phone number, make sure the contact form is obvious and easy to access. The other things that we'd probably look at putting on every site that we do and we look for when we're doing a review is a unique value proposition. You've got a few seconds to communicate what you do to your audience when they land on your homepage, for example. So we look at that as a unique value proposition. What do you do better than your competitor? And how can you phrase that to your particular audience? The other thing that we look for is email capture. So on every page, ideally, there should be a call to action or something for that visitor to do. Now, that might still be go to the next article, go to the next page, go to the contact page, whatever it may be, but each page should have a purpose. So, and every opportunity, if you can grab their email, that means that you can then continue that conversation with them, whether it be through a newsletter or a monthly marketing email or whatever it might be. But that's the number one way to build that database. Some of the other things we've got more recently, we've seen great success with is having a live chat on your website. If you've got the manpower to basically put behind that, to make sure that somebody's there to answer it should anybody have any questions.
Yeah.
People are they want a result like today. They want to speak to somebody today.
Totally. As a consumer, I'm like that. I'm like, what do you mean it's going to take you 24 hours to get back to me? It's like, get back to me right now.
Exactly. We want that immediacy. And even, and some people as well don't want to jump on a phone necessarily.
Yeah.
We've had some great success with that live chat, particularly because we have a large client base in the US. So that time difference allows us to, in our evening, we can still be online in front of our US audience. So live chat's really, really good to get people engaged, and you can go a little bit further with that live chat thing. More recently, there's been some moves with bots. You may have heard of bots. And they're sort of automated little routines, I suppose, that people can interact with. And you can go to the nth degree with the bots, or you could actually keep it fairly simple and just have an automated bot answering that chat.
Yeah.
And if somebody wants to talk to somebody, then it can then ping.
Yes, that happened to me the other day when I had to ring a technical company for something. I spoke to a bot, and then it said, "I'm just transferring you to a human," and I was like, "Oh, good." But that makes sense. Okay, cool. All right, so those are some of the the key elements. Okay, fantastic. So let's talk a little bit about the back end of things, of websites.
Mm-hmm.
So what are some of the key mistakes vegan business owners make in regards to the back end? So I know when you and I have had sort of discussions, because I say you do our maintenance, things around, I guess, things like bloated themes, too many plugins, that kind of thing. Can you just talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, sure. So yeah, the bloated themes, going back to the earlier discussion about the templates that look all bells and whistles, but when you get to it, it's probably more than you need. Those themes are very, very prevalent, and they look fantastic in the demos, but they're loaded up with all these bells and whistles that you don't generally need 80% of them. So bloated themes certainly is one of the big issues.
And what does that mean for people who don't know what a bloated theme is? It means it's got loads of unnecessary code in and it slows your site down. Is that right? Or?
That's spot on. So when the processor is going through and looking at all of the code that's in there and working out what it needs to do, it's got to go through lots and lots of checks to go, is this enabled? No. Is this enabled? No. Is this enabled? No. Is this enabled? No. So if you've turned off 80% of what you don't need, it's still got to go through that. And we've seen themes that are probably 20, 30, 40 meg large, whereas some of the themes that we use are less than 1 meg. So and it also depends on your processing speed. But if you put a bloated theme on a slow host, then you're going to get poor performance.
Got it. Right.
Cool. Some of the other things we've seen is illegal themes.
Themes. Oh,
yeah, it's a thing. So you've obviously heard of malware, and so hackers will take a copy of a popular theme, and they'll put malware in it. So they'll download it, they'll inject their code into it, and they'll zip it up, and then they'll make it available for free to people to then go and get it. Oh, I can get a copy of that theme. Oh, and it's free. Oh, okay, that's great. That's it, and it because it's got dodgy code in it. So we've taken on a number of sites on our maintenance where the actual theme has been installed and it's an illegal theme. There is a site you can check your theme against to double check this to make sure it's okay. But and there's also the same for plugins as well. So plugins fall into the same bucket. So you can get hacked effectively or dodgy. They call it nulled, NULLED. That's the sort of the online word for it. Other than that, other things to be careful of.
Just before we go on to that, Dave, what's the website you mentioned where you can test your theme?
I'll have to look that up.
Oh, okay. All right. We'll put that on the show notes page. That's fine. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. The other things, old plugins. The WordPress repository is fantastic when you've got your WordPress site and it tells you, there's a new version of this plugin or this theme is available. You can download it. That's wonderful if you're using a plugin that is being maintained by the developer. And the reason a plugin will get updated is for performance improvements, security fixes, functionality enhancements as well. But if you're using a plugin that hasn't been updated in 6, 12, 18 months, 2 years, 3 years, you're never going to get notified that it's out of date effectively. It's old. It's been what we call abandoned. So they become a security risk because it means that if there's been a security vulnerability identified in some of the code that it uses, and the developer's not patching it, you'll never get an updated version. So it's worthwhile going and checking to see, against each of your plugins in the back end of your website, you can go and look them up in the repository and see if that particular plugin has been updated recently in the last 6 to 12 months at least.
Okay.
Large images, that would be something else to make sure of. You don't have we've often seen 3 or 4 meg images loaded into the back end of websites, which will, when they're being displayed on the front end, that's going to slow things down dramatically.
What's the maximum size would you recommend for images to be? Like under 100 kilobytes or under 50? Yeah. Okay.
There are some images, depending on the makeup of the pixels and what the image is of, can mean that it can be compressed more than other images. But we aim for about 100K.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Oh, God, this is really good. This is really, really helpful information. So, just on themes now, what about themes and something called child themes? Because this is what I was recommended, a few years ago. So, if you use a child theme, then when WordPress updates, it doesn't mess up your theme because it's like a framework. What are your thoughts on that? Because things change so much in this world, and this is your world. So, what are your thoughts on themes versus child themes, and whether it's best to avoid sites? Whether it's best to have a child theme or a regular theme?
Sure. Most definitely child themes is the way to go. And the reason being...
And what is it? I'm going to let you explain what a child theme is because I'm not 100% sure. So
Yeah. So when you install a theme into WordPress, it contains a set of files which control the look and feel of your website. A child theme is basically related to that theme, and it tells WordPress, I'm a child of that theme, so take all of the functionality and the look and feel of the parent theme, but also, in addition, if there's any customizations, take them from the child theme. And what that means is if you're going to put some specific customizations that you want to make to your site, rather than updating all of the code in the parent theme, you make it in your child theme. And the reason being is that your developer, or whether you've purchased the theme from somewhere like ThemeForest, when they release a new update to it, then what they expect you to do is take away the old version of the parent theme and replace it with the new version of the parent theme. So if you've made any customizations in that parent theme, they're going to be lost unless you know that they're there and you have to put them back in manually. But if you put all of your customizations in the child theme, you've protected them effectively from any parent theme updates. So it's always wise, and most of the let me say, any decent theme will allow you to have a child theme created for it, and most of the documentation for each of those themes online will have this is how to create it as well.
Got it. You mentioned ThemeForest. Is that somewhere that you recommend? Because obviously you can get themes from different places. Is that a place that you recommend that if people want to look at themes to get them?
It's certainly for those people that want to set up the website themselves. It's a great starting place. It's just don't be too dazzled by the bells and whistles of all of the theme demos, because it can take several hours, if not days, to get your website looking like the demo, unless they've got an import demo function. And then you just replace their content with your content. So ThemeForest is pretty good. We've moved away from ThemeForest over the last few years more to a framework called Genesis.
And yes.
Which I think you've got on some of your sites.
Yeah. Oh, cool. Okay, good. And obviously, if people work with you, then you would either recommend it. So what's the difference anyway? So we talked about themes and child themes. So what about like custom coding from scratch? So like if someone were to hire you, to say, right, Dave, I need my website. I want it done on WordPress. Would you and they said, right, and I want it basically to look like this, and they give you some feedback, maybe partly this site and partly that site. And would you then use a theme and customize it, like choose a theme for them and customize it? Or would you say, right, no, I'm going to custom code from the start? And what is better?
It depends on the goals of what you're trying to achieve. So we can do both, and we have done both, and we do both. The benefits, I suppose, of having a custom developed theme, if you've got some custom functionality that's not solved already by another already existing theme or plugins, then you're probably left with no choice to develop something from scratch. If you're wanting something so bespoke, so that maybe the interactivity of the site is not available on any theme, we would have to build that from scratch. But we would typically, I'd say the majority is taking a starter theme and then customizing that starter theme to the design that we've either been provided or the design that we've developed with the clients as well. So, and more recently, we've noticed a huge shift in when WordPress 5 was released, they moved to the Gutenberg editor, and that's very much more block-based, and they're getting more towards that page builder style. And there's a couple of great page builders out there right now, and they're free. You can buy a premium version where you get more functionality, but the free versions are pretty good. One is called Elementor, and one is called a Beaver Builder, and they are really, really good, and allow non-developers to be able to create a layout that's pretty neat. And there's lots of add-ons you can get to create that interactivity. So we're seeing more and more of a shift to rather than spending the $20,000, the $15,000 on a website now, the clients can put the budget into more of the marketing and the peripheral elements to the digital marketing solution than just the website now through these page builders.
Oh, cool. Thank you for sharing that. I appreciate that. I mean, certainly as far as it's nice for people who maybe want to do that themselves. I know for me, I'm happy uploading my blogs and making, text-based changes, that kind of thing. But when it comes to like building pages or coding, I personally prefer to leave that to the experts. But I appreciate you letting people know about that. So we talked about, you mentioned plugins. So what would you say, what are some of the essential plugins? Because obviously, we mentioned shiny object syndrome, and it can be easy to get carried away. Oh, there's a plugin for this and there's a plugin for that. What would you say are the essential plugins that pretty much all websites ought to have?
Yeah, a backup plugin is the number one thing. So we would recommend. So there's a plugin called Updraft Plus, which is pretty good at doing that. And that also will allow you to go and create that backup and make sure it's stored. So you can hook it up to your Dropbox account. So every night you can get that backup stored in your Dropbox off the server. Yoast or SEO Rank Math, or there's another SEO plugin as well. But
all-in-one SEO?
That's it, all-in-one SEO. So they're not the panacea for getting to page one, but they will guide you. They will give you traffic light systems to analyze your content and say, you need to add the keyword to your title or a keyword to your content. So that would be one of the go-to plugins we would include. Convert Pro is a great plugin for email capture. So you can set it so that you can put an opt-in in your sidebar or an opt-in as a pop-up, and you can control those pop-ups so that you don't annoy. I know they are annoying, but they can be less annoying if you put them to pop up when the user is about to leave. So exit intent is what that's called. So
it's funny you've mentioned that pop-ups, because I've installed it on my vegan business media website. I haven't done anything with it. It's called Hustle, and that's like a pop-up thing as well. It was a free one that comes with WordPress. So I hope I haven't done anything wrong to my website, but I installed it and activated it last night, but it was really late last night. I'm not doing anything else with it because I did have pop-ups on my site for a while, and then the program I was using, something went wrong, or I don't know, they discontinued it or something or other. So I thought, I'll put it on, but I haven't done anything with it. Is that that's just a nosy personal question. Is Hustle okay? It's not a dodgy plugin or anything, is it?
I've not heard of Hustle. It's funny how we sort of settle on a plugin. We periodically review all of our plugins as well to go, are they better? But we don't want to be reviewing them every week to go, is there something better? Because we'd spin our wheels just chasing shiny objects. The other ones we'd recommend is WordFence is a plugin for security. So that's useful to have in there. There's a couple of great plugins to help with performance, so caching of files, CSS files, JavaScript files. So there's one called Breeze and there's one called WP Rocket. Cool. They're pretty good. Drift, we're actually ourselves are just experimenting with Drift, and we've been using Talk.to, TAWK.to, for chat, for live chat.
Oh, okay.
And there's some great offerings out there as well, but they all offer different functionality. So some will offer the ability to set your business hours. So it will automatically enable at 9 o'clock in the morning and shut off at 5. Some don't. So you have to go in manually and say, hey, I'm around.
Oh, okay.
So it all depends on what works for you.
Cool.
Beaver Builder I mentioned earlier allows you to create layouts, and it works typically on top of many of the popular themes. And the last one would be Social Warfare or something similar. to do your social sharing. So we often see clients who come to us with a website that they've had built, or they've built themselves, and they haven't had that social social sharing on their blog. So they're getting a lot of traffic, but nobody's actually taking their content and then easily sharing it on their Facebook page.
Yeah.
So we just want to give the greatest opportunity for people to share.
Absolutely. That's
content.
something I was having an issue with, as you know, and I've got the free version of Social Warfare on the moment, but I think I might upgrade to the paid one because it offers more, like people can share via Buffer and Reddit, whereas I think with the free one, it's just got some basic ones on there. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So that's really helpful. Now, you mentioned SEO, the SEO plugins. So the ones I'd heard of, were Yoast and All-in-One SEO. So tell us what do these do exactly, and which would you recommend out of the two of those in particular? And is it worth getting the paid versions? And if so, why?
Okay, great question. So we use Yoast. And we use Yoast on all of our client sites as well. And the main reason we do that is that we have some video training that we include in all of the websites so that the clients can then go and refer to it. What they do, SEO is typically looking at a number of factors. There's on-page, and the plugins look at on-page SEO, which is what it's called. So things like if you're trying to rank for, let's say, the phrase vegan coach Melbourne. So if you've got an article or a post or a page on your website and you're trying to rank for that key phrase, you need to make sure, first of all, that actual text exists on the page, because otherwise you'll never get ranked for it. Typically, it will need to go into the title of the page. It will also need to go into the headings of the page. It will need to go in the content of the page. It will also need to go in any image alt tags that are associated to that page. Now, what these plugins do is basically they go through a checklist of things to make sure that you're doing those right things. So if it's not in the heading, it will flag to say you need to add this keyword into your heading. So it's not going to automatically get you to page one of Google, but what it will do is it will guide you against best practices that it is aware of for on-page SEO. There are obviously lots of other factors in SEO, things like how long your domain has been active, whether it's been whether the domain has been affected by vulnerabilities, because if Google finds that there's a vulnerability on your site, it can potentially, whether it be delist you from Google search results, because Google doesn't want to send its clients to your site if it knows you've got malware on it, for example. So and that's one of the reasons why you would look after your site and maintain it, is to prevent that. You don't want to be working out for 4 or 5, 6 years to get to number one and then go, you've got a vulnerability and all of a sudden you're off Google's page one. So there's some other things. So getting links to your content as well from other sites will also lift your profile in the search engine results as well. So there's lots and lots, and obviously Google keep changing it. They'll change their algorithms to improve things. But if you think about writing really good quality content that is valuable to your audience, then Google are going to love you for it anyway. And if people come to your site, and don't forget, Google are always looking and listening and watching to go, oh, Dave's visited that particular site. Oh, and he was on there because that site's got Google Analytics on it, right? And so Dave was on that site and he went to it for that search term of vegan coach Melbourne, but he spent 2 seconds and then he went somewhere else. Well, that probably wasn't that useful to him. However, if Dave went to that site and he spent 5 minutes or 10 minutes on that site, then they're going to get that feedback from that site's Google Analytics to say, we need to promote that one. So it's a very complex area, but certainly those two plugins are great to give you a guide on how to best structure your content on your website.
What's the upside, if any, to getting the paid versions of those? Like, are the free versions enough, or is it worth getting the paid versions, and why?
The paid versions just give you more functionality. They certainly are worthwhile. It all depends on where you are in your SEO journey. I wouldn't, if somebody's just starting out, I would say stick with the free version to begin with and see how you go, because the paid version is also not going to make you jump to number one either.
Yeah. And that's the thing, isn't it? So I was going to say to you then, realistically then, how, and I know this is kind of a how long is a piece of string question, but realistically, approximately how long would it generally take a site or a piece of content to get to the top of Google, or at least on page one, if not the top of page one? And what's involved in making that happen? I know you've touched on that a little bit, but you sort of give us a realistic kind of idea of what that takes.
Yeah, great question. And it is a little bit like how long is a piece of string? It all depends on what key phrase you're going for. So if you're going to try for the key phrase vegan, if you want your site to be up at number one spot for the key phrase vegan, you're up against 900 million other results. So it's going to take a while. However, if you're going to be going for, and this is what we're encouraging a lot of our clients to do with what's called long tail keywords. So something like, as I mentioned before, vegan coach Melbourne, or vegan coach Sydney, or Toronto, whatever it may be. And what is it that you think your audience are going to plug into their search engine that you want to be found for? So people will, people will be searching, how do I go vegan? Or need a vegan coach near me, something like that, which is where your local search comes in. Right. So you could probably get to number one for a long tail keyword that isn't indexed at all very quickly, matter of days. It's whether you want to do that. SEO is also a long-term strategy. It's not a let's launch a website and hope that we get million hits next week, because Google needs to be told that you exist. Google needs to have some validation. And I mentioned a couple of the items before, but the Google My Business is also useful, and reviews. Google is now looking at reviews and making, if people are getting lots of favorable reviews on their website, on their Google My Business page that is linked to their website, then it will promote the results as well. So it's all about working, and that's where the strategy comes in, to work on, is SEO the best solution for you? It may not be. It may be that you're better off putting money into ads, because, for example, give you a differentiator here, whenever anybody needs a dentist, they need one pretty quickly because they've got toothache, right?
Yeah.
They don't typically go searching, a Saturday afternoon, I need a dentist in 6 months' time, I just see who's around. They look for a dentist because it's immediate. So having SEO is less important. Having Google ads there is our go-to strategy for that, to solve that problem.
It's the same with Tracy and my partner Tracy and her hypnotherapy practice. People are wanting a solution to their problems now, so Google AdWords works well for her. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So SEO, it's a long-term strategy. Ads are a short-term strategy. Putting out valuable content regularly, that's the thing to do.
Got it. And would you be likely to get to on the top page of Google more for, say, a single piece of content, like a particular page on your website, like a blog post, for example, rather than, say, just your home page?
Yeah, you could do potentially. Yes, if that particular page has got keywords that people are searching for, then you could be ranking for that particular page. It all depends on that search term that people are looking for.
Yeah.
Google are trying to get, and you'll see more and more over the next few years. We've gone from very much desktop to mobile and mobile search. And where, if you've got one of those wonderful devices that listen to all your conversations in and around your home, just waiting for the, hey, Google, we'll see more of that as well over the next few years, where people will be searching. I got one, a little Google Mini for my mum. She lives alone. She can now play music. She can actually ask it questions. She's got a bit of company. It's not like she's going to be having conversations that Google are going to be particularly interested in listening to.
Got
But
it.
we'll find more voice search over the next few years.
That's an interesting one, isn't it? Yeah. Oh, cool.
Mm.
I find those things a bit creepy, to be honest. Like they're listening to what I'm saying. But
Yes.
yeah, it's definitely the way to go. I mean, I've started using voice to text on my phone. I mean, that's been a godsend instead, because young people do that thing with their two thumbs, whereas I text with one finger. So being able to press a microphone and speak my texts, I mean, that's amazing. But yeah, I'm not sure about I want Google or people listening in. But yeah, I take your point. It's obviously the way we're going. Big Brother is definitely watching us. Now, let's talk a little bit about mobile sites. So obviously, we've touched on this in that they're really, really important now, and Google will penalise you if your site's not mobile friendly. So in the past, it used to be that sites or companies would have a mobile version of their site and a desktop version. Is that still a thing, or is it now that you just have a responsive site? So it's the same site, but it just works differently. It displays differently, I should say, on mobile devices.
Yeah, the most modern themes will be mobile responsive. You shouldn't really need to have a second site or a second domain or a subdomain where your mobile version sits, or even in a subfolder. It's probably not going to help your SEO by having those. Effectively, you've got duplicate content against two different URLs, and that's not going to be great for your Google search results. So, yeah, most of the modern themes are mobile responsive now. Yeah.
And obviously make sure if you are choosing a theme or working with someone that they choose a responsive theme for you. Okay, cool. Now that makes sense. Yeah. I know you touched on Google Analytics. So how important is it to have that installed on your site? Because I know Google Analytics has grown over the years and it's become a bit of a complicated beast. It's kind of added all these bells and whistles. But what are your thoughts on how important it is to have it on the site?
Absolutely, it should be there, regardless of whether you yourself go in there and look at it. It's useful because if you don't have it in there, when somebody you engage to go, well, where is your traffic coming from? And if you haven't got it installed, you can't answer that question. So get it installed. It's literally a 4 lines of code that goes into your header of your website. You can get plugins that will install it for you, but it does allow you some interesting insights into your audience when they come to your website, where they're coming from, what search terms they're looking for. It's really incredibly valuable. And again, may not be to you, but it may be to the SEO company that you engage, or your ads person that you engage, or your Facebook person that you engage, et cetera, et cetera. So absolutely, yes, critical.
Got it. Okay. And then what about security? Again, we touched a little bit on this. Obviously, it's even more important nowadays. What security measures do business owners need to have on their websites to protect them from viruses and hacking and all kinds of, and malware that I think you mentioned as well?
Okay. Yeah, well, so let's start off by just talking about why somebody might want to come to your, they're not interested in your content. So a hacker isn't coming to Vegan Business Media to sort of infiltrate and grab all of your content. They're looking to your server, for the processing power, because they want to install some dodgy little code on your server, and often you don't know about it because they'll install it and it'll lie dormant until it gets enabled, and then they use your processing power to send emails. So they'll send emails from your server out, and those are those phishing emails, etc., etc. So they don't care about your site per se. So people have this misconception to go, nobody's going to be hacking my site because I've got nothing of interest in it. No, they're not after the content. They're after the processing power. So what you can do, a number of steps you can do. The WordFence plugin I mentioned earlier is a great resource. Keep your software up to date. And also check those plugins to make sure they're not been abandoned. Even some of the high-profile plugins. So Yoast had a vulnerability in it a couple of weeks ago, and it was patched and it was fixed, and we updated it on all the client sites that we look after within a day. So just because you've got, you've paid for a premium plugin, it's going to have updates. That's the nature of software. It's funny, having been a software developer for too many years. It's funny how our our chosen career path and that of a weatherman are very similar, because we can keep getting things wrong and we still have jobs, right?
Oh, it's funny.
And it's always amazed me, if I was a structural engineer and I built a bridge and 2 months later they said, oh yeah, the bridge needs fixing. Oh, okay, well, we'll take that bit down and we'd be soon out of a job. But it's become an accepted thing that software engineering, there's always going to be updates and fixes. So our iPhones get updates all the time. The apps on them get updated all the time. It's a way of life. So keep all the software up to date. Choose a reputable hosting company. So we recommend a couple of hosts. WP Engine and SiteGround are our go-to host choices. There are some other great ones out there as well, and we've got sites hosted on a couple of others as well. But if you're paying $5 a month for hosting and you're expecting to get super responsive websites, you might. But the chances are, what normally happens is a host will sell $5 account hosting packages, and they will be putting on hundreds, if not tens of hundreds, thousands of websites on the same server. So what happens? So they're all sitting in a different folder, effectively. And what happens is, if one of those sites is getting hit, because it's popular, then your site might be starved of CPU and resources to deliver your content to your clients. The other thing on that as well is, if you're sharing your server, if your website is sharing the server with lots of other sites and they're of a dodgy nature, then if they're not being maintained and they get an infection, often what the malware can do is go searching on that same server for other folders and other files to infect. So it's also increasing your risk of getting infected on your site as well.
So you need a hosting solution that hasn't got many sites on it, because obviously getting your own dedicated server, that will cost a fortune, wouldn't it?
That's right, and that's where SiteGround particularly have been able to. They split off sections so that they limit the amount of sites that go onto a particular server. And a lot of it's now virtual. That's getting more techie, but virtual machines and virtualized services. But they limit that number, which is one of the reasons why we love. And we love SiteGround because their support. WP Engine and SiteGround support have been the best in our experience over the last 10 years or so. When you need help, you don't want to wait 3 days for it. As you mentioned earlier, you don't want to wait 24 hours for somebody to get back to you. You need somebody there and then to fix your issue.
Yeah. So I use Bluehost on Vegan Business Media. I mean, what do you think of them?
Bluehost are pretty good. We steer people away from GoDaddy.
Yes.
And particularly with the GoDaddy,
the founder shoots elephants, doesn't it? Hunts elephants.
That's right.
Yeah,
that's right.
Yes, no, we don't want any of that. No. Okay, good. So get a good host. So don't just go for cheap hosting. So what would you expect to pay monthly for a decent sort of host?
We've seen various hosting companies out there. The US based, if your site is in the US, we would recommend that you actually get hosted in the US. Our vegan web design is hosted in the US.
Yeah, so that's why I've got Bluehost for Vegan Business Media, because the majority of my audience is in the US, whereas Tracy's local site is hosted locally because her business, her hypnotherapy business, is in Australia. So that's a good point. Yeah, thank you for highlighting that.
Keep your hosting close to where the majority of your clients are. That means that the traffic doesn't have as far to go. I mean, yes, we've all got supposedly high speed broadband, and it's supposed to be really fast, but every little helps. So yes, going back to how much you pay, you can pay $15 a month, $5 a month, depending on the host. If it's a quality host, $15 a month is probably on average what you can get. You'll find that a lot of them now are offering more and more features and benefits to that. I know that GoDaddy, I hate referring to GoDaddy, because they're a bit of a bane in my life. They're advertising with, as we're in Australia, we've got a TV show, Home and Away, and we've got Alf Roberts who's now advertising on GoDaddy saying, oh, it's that easy to create a website.
Really?
And it's just icky. But probably between 5 and 15 a month, depending on what you're getting. If you're getting maintenance as well for that and backups as well, wonderful. If you've got and support as well. If your website's down, you want somebody to jump on it on the hosting side really quickly.
Which is why I like Bluehost Live Check. You can literally get on it 24 hours and they can either say, yes, we're aware of the issue and we're fixing it, where at least I know that, or, if it's something else, they can go, oh, yes, we need to do this. So, that is important. Often, now you've touched on backup and also maintenance. So talk a little bit about maintenance. So you do our maintenance, and every month, I get these reports, and you've obviously, told me exactly what you're doing, what plugins have been updated, and how fast the site's been going, how often it was down. So talk us through a little bit about what kinds of regular maintenance should be done to a website each month and why.
Sure. So as we mentioned, the plugins, the themes, the WordPress updates, they all need to be looked after. We're finding more recently with WordPress version 5, when that came out, a lot of the plugins weren't ready to be working with version 5. So we would look at, which ones need to sort of we hold off on. Genesis released a new version of their theme, for example, a couple of weeks ago, but it broke a lot of people's sites. So we hold off on we don't want to be the bleeding edge. We want to be sort of N-1, as we call it. We don't want to be the latest. We want to be one off the latest. So let other people find the issues unless they're security related.
That's what I do with my iPhone. I won't update it straight away. I think I'll let the people who are really into it go first, and then they can report any bugs.
It's a great strategy. So we'd be looking at plugins. We'd be looking at what type of plugins. If it's an e-commerce site, for example, what we might do is we might take that site onto a staging area. So we clone it and then we update it and then we test it on the staging area. And then if that's all good and that gives us confidence that it's not going to break anything, then we'll make the changes on the live site. We always make sure we've done a backup, of course, before we do any plugin updates, so that should anything go wrong, we can go back to that backup. Other things that we look for as well are, on a month-to-month basis, is, a website's performance might drop. And it might be because somebody has uploaded a 4 meg image and it's now on their homepage. So it's now taking an extra 3 seconds to load. So that's something that we monitor on a month-to-month basis as well. We'll look at periodically if those plugins have been abandoned as well, if things haven't been updated for the last 6 months, 12 months, and then we'll look to find an alternate plugin that provides the same functionality. Broken links is also something else that we're starting to introduce as well. Is, if people have linked to a site 6 years ago and that site's gone, then they probably aren't aware of that, but they've still got a link on one of their old posts that's pointing to something that doesn't exist. We're now starting to build some of that reporting in so that we can see what those links are and alert the business website owner to say, hey, that's gone down. Can you please update your post? Because that's going to help you Google as well, your Google search results. Uptime monitoring is also pretty critical, and you can do this. There's Uptime Robot is a website that you can go and use for free, and that will monitor your uptime of your website. So it basically pings your website every 5 minutes or so, and if it's down, it will then send you a message. Because you're running a business, you're not checking your website every 10 minutes to make sure it's up. Yeah. And particularly for us, if our main audience is in the US, we're not awake when they are. So we want to know, if the site goes down and for what reason, as well, so we can look at and fix that. Uptime monitoring will be something that we do as well. We have systems in place to monitor all of our websites.
Fantastic. Now, you touched on this is great. Now, you touched on speed, which is important. And there are ways as well, I think people can check the speed of their site periodically as well, like through, is it Pingdom, one of them? I think there's several different ones. So
Yep.
why is the speed of a site important?
Again, it's for two main reasons. Is your visitors, they don't want to be sitting there waiting for 5 to 10 seconds for a site to load. They'll then choose another site. There'll be another competitor that they'll go to. Secondly is your Google results as well. Everything sort of links back to Google. Google, by having those analytics installed, Google will be learning how fast your site is as well. So the faster the site speed, the better rankings you're going to attain. So yeah, you mentioned Pingdom Tools. That's one great resource. Another one is GT Metrics with an X. And there's also the Google Page Speed Test. But when you're testing your site speed, just make sure that you're taking an average. So their servers are obviously under load as well. So run it 3 or 4 times at different times of the day, and then just take an average. And also don't get too caught up in, if that before the, above the fold, as we talked about earlier, if that loads within a half a second, great, because the chances are the rest of your site will still be loading, but
while
people won't be
are
scrolling
looking.
just yet.
Okay,
Exactly.
that makes sense. Yeah, that's a good point, actually. Yeah, I hadn't thought of that. Marvellous, brilliant, that's great. So in terms of budgets, Dave, so if someone wants, and you mentioned this earlier, like, some people were paying in the past like 20K, 15K for websites, and not a lot of, and particularly small business owners, they simply don't have that kind of budget. So what can a vegan brand typically expect to spend on an initial website? And I'm talking definitely kind of ballpark figures, or, range of figures. But just to give people an idea that, if they say, right, I want to work, because some businesses have only got Facebook pages. And I know there's some marketers that say, oh, that's fine, that's all you need. I personally don't agree with that, because if Facebook decides it doesn't like you anymore or changes its algorithm, I think you need your own home. It's like the analogy of building your business on someone else's land. You want to build your own home on your own land. So I do think it's important to have a website, and I'm sure you do too. But what sort of typically budget-wise can a vegan brand expect to pay for a site?
Sure. First of all, I completely agree with you on the Facebook thing. Was it yesterday that Instagram have changed the way that they are displaying how many likes, or they're not displaying how many likes?
Yes, for Australian users, yes. So it's yeah.
So you've got no control of what that particular platform is going to do with your content. So, which is why we always say, have your website at the center of your digital marketing solution. The social is one element, and that's to use to drive traffic back to your website.
Exactly. Yeah.
Then you can also put, Facebook pixels on there to remarket to ads to those people that have come to your site. It's a lot easier to sell something to somebody who's already expressed interest on you, on your services, than it is to somebody who's brand new. But going back to the website, you can, if you want to build this yourself, you can probably pick up a hosting package from something like Bluehost, and WordPress has a repository of themes for free, or you could probably go and buy one from Theme Forest for about $60-$70, I think they are now. We recently launched a series we've got about 100 different designs of themes that are built on a template theme called Astra, which is a really, really popular theme. It's really, really fast. And so we now have a range of themes that are $299 up front, and then we get people to subscribe to one of our website care plans for 12 months. And that way we ensure that they're going to get every success from the website. So we don't want somebody just to come along and go, right, I've done my website, now what? We're there to hold their hand through that process for the first 12 months, provide them the training that they need. So we felt that was a great way of getting a lot of the smaller businesses up online and get something that's professional. We will replace the content with their content that they provide. But that's probably a good starting point.
Right. So around sort of 300 for the theme, and then what, depending on the maintenance package. So around about maybe a few $100s, like maybe between say $300 and $500 if they were going to hire someone like you, for example, for a basic kind of site.
Yeah.
Okay, got it. Okay. Good. So there we go. You don't have to spend $15,000, $20,000 people. I always kind of freak when I hear that. I mean, obviously, if it's a massive company, multinationals, that's a drop in the ocean for them. But obviously, for small business owners, but I have heard of SMEs kind of spending that kind of money. And typically, you hear about them because they have all sorts of problems, which I find ironic. They're spending all that money, and yet they've usually got problems of some kind. So, okay, well, good. Yeah.
We had a client last year who came to us and they said that they had a fixed amount of budget and they opted for one of these ready-to-go websites. And that then allowed them to take their budget that they had available for their website and marketing to put more into the marketing side of things. So the website worked. It's probably not the bee's knees website, but it works. It sells things, but then they could put the majority of their funds into digital marketing campaigns and get their brand out there.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, as long as a site doesn't look like it's built in 1999, do you know what I mean? It doesn't have to be all kind of flashy and have all the bells and whistles. As long as it's clean and functional and represents your brand.
Absolutely, absolutely, and that gets back to that comment I made, the facetious comment I made earlier about the site's not about you. We're not building it for the website owner to go and look at every day. We're building it for hundreds, if not hopefully thousands of people to look at every day.
It's funny, I'm laughing because when I had my website or my logo, like some branding design for me by a vegan designer who worked for Vegan Business Media, when we initially, I think I've said this on one of the podcasts before, but when we were initially going through some examples like he was sending me, and I was like, and I knew what colours I wanted. I wanted like the gold, to represent, business and money, red and the grey for kind of zero. So I knew my colours, and I was like, yeah, that's great. But then I said, and he kept giving me these ideas, and I said, look, can you just try this with gold glitter, please? And he was like, Katrina, it's not. I said, look, just do me a mock-up. Of course, he did me a mock-up. And when I saw it, I mean, like part of me loved it because I was like, oh, look how pretty. And he said, it looks like a Christmas site. You're selling Christmas trees. And I was so grateful though that he was honest with me, because if I hired someone else, I didn't really care. They would have gone, okay, client wants that, just do it. But he actually kind of said to me, look, it's not suitable. And I could see that. I was like, yeah, it's not for me to look at all day. If it was, my site would have all glittery sparkles on it. But yeah, you're right. It is for the audience, and not everyone's going to want to look at that. I have got my gold glitter jacket on in one of my photos though, so I slipped it in there. But yeah, you're right. It's important. So yeah, sorry, I was just chuckling. So in terms of, I just want to talk briefly about your business as well, because I know you launched, because when I first found out about you'd launched as vegan web design, and then I noticed you've recently kind of gone back to using rock paper digital. So tell us a bit about why and what have been the benefits and any disadvantages.
Yeah, it's been an interesting journey. We did start off, as you say, with vegan web design. We then we were getting inquiries from local, it'll be people that you know of, or people that run a business that are friends of your kids' parents at school and things like that. And the vegan web design, they're probably not wanting to do business with vegan web design. It's a little bit stereotypical. It's a bit polarizing, and we felt that we needed another brand to cater for those clients. So we created Rock Paper Digital some years ago, and then we created a whole world of hurt for ourselves by saying, well, okay, we've got maintenance plans, website care plans for both vegan web design and Rock Paper Digital clients. Okay, well, let's create WP Giving, and that way, so that was the third brand that we had where we were providing website care plans to both our two brands, plus anybody who came to us brand new that just wanted a website care plan. And it just got crazy. We're a small little business. We don't have the time to do, well, we should make more time, but we don't really have the time to do the marketing for two, never mind three brands. So we made the call to go, you know what, it's just a little bit crazy. Let's consolidate down to the Rock Paper Digital. But in going through that process, so we've closed down the WP Giving brand, and we're going to Rock Paper Digital. But going through that process, we have found that we still have a very good following for vegan web design. We're sponsoring the Brisbane Vegan Expo in October, and
cool.
we'll be holding a stall there, showing our wares, and we did one in Noosa as well last year. And vegan, it's still got that niche that's great. The Rock Paper Digital was sort of meant to become the ethical digital marketing solutions for ethical brands. So you don't need to be vegan to be ethical, right?
Yeah.
So you can still be wanting to save the planet, et cetera, et cetera. And that's what the Rock Paper Digital had intended to be. Where it is now, we've still got both brands. They're both equal in what we're pushing out there. They're both offering exactly the same service. It's just to a different audience. And we're finding that the Rock Paper Digital is more about the local business, the local market, rather than trying to compete with let's say web designers in California. Somebody in California is going to go to California unless they want a vegan web designer. Then they'll come.
Got it. So it could be like a local accountant who might not be vegan, but they're not their business is not unvegan. So you wouldn't take on a butcher, obviously, because
absolutely
not. Okay,
no.
Now that makes sense. Oh, cool. Okay, so vegan web design is still happening. Okay, cool. And we've touched on this a little bit, but just to expand on the kinds of services that you offer. So you offer website design, whether that's custom coding and completely bespoke, through to budget-friendly theme and what have you. And then you also offer regular monthly maintenance packages for websites as well. Is that it, kind of in a nutshell? And we also provide some digital marketing strategy as well.
Yeah, we pretty much provide the whole range of services, but our focus is really on those websites. We're currently working with 2 nonprofits in the US doing custom design and build for them, and a nonprofit, a sanctuary in the US as well.
Oh, nice.
So that's our core business, and the maintenance is also something that we do enjoy. We do enjoy looking after. We've recently introduced.
Sorry, I'm laughing again because that's like my brain explodes when you hear that. Like someone enjoys coding and the maintenance of websites, and I'm like, no. But it's great that you're doing it. I love it.
It's great, isn't it wonderful that we all have different things that we enjoy? I must admit, in our business, I hate the bookkeeping side of things.
Oh, me too. Yeah, we've got a bookkeeper for that, an accountant. Yeah,
absolutely. So we look after it, and because we signed up to things like the Word Friends email notifications, so we know when a vulnerability comes out. So we can easily go and search for all of the sites that we're looking after to see, does that plugin vulnerability exist on any of our client sites, and we can go and patch it really quickly. And we get a lot of satisfaction from keeping it safe. We do have the odd occasion where something will still penetrate and infiltrate somebody's site, but so long as they're clients and they're on one of our plans, we fix that for free. That's just part of the offering that we provide as well. So
great.
Yeah.
Fantastic. And what would you say then, in a nutshell, what differentiates you, what sets you apart from other website design and maintenance companies, and even other vegan website design and maintenance companies?
I can certainly comment on the other website design agencies. So we've had a number of customers come to us who, I think one of our recent clients, a lady who had an e-commerce site, and she'd been through 4 different developers.
Oh,
and we had an inquiry last week from a guy who tried the developers overseas, and he said they just disappear on him. So I guess we differentiate ourselves. We're here for the long haul. We're not here temporarily. We will respond to your emails. We don't leave you hanging. We're pretty much online, apart from when we're sleeping. We go the extra mile. I had somebody call me. What's it call me? You're like Uncle Dave. It's like you're always there. You're ready to help. So I think it's going that personal. It's a personal connection we like to have with our clients. we don't want to become that massive agency that loses that connection with people, because we all have, don't forget, we've all got something here that's intrinsically in common with everybody that we work with, particularly in vegan web design. So we've got that common goal, which is probably a little bit different to any other local web developer. Do you know if that makes sense?
Exactly, absolutely. That's what I say. Like, we're all on this shared mission. It's funny, actually. I was I was speaking to somebody recently, and they're helping me with a bit of social media marketing, and it was like, who's your main competitor? And I said, well, this is who would be. And I put competitor in quote marks, and I said I've put it in quote marks because we're friends. They're in my book. We're actually getting on a call soon to see how we can collaborate on something. So we might be in the same kind of field, but we're not competitors in that strict sense. We're more collaborators, because we are all on this shared mission. So I totally get where you're coming from. And as I say, I think it's great that we've got, people like yourself that we can now go to do these things, because you've got that extra motivation and interest. We're not just another customer. It's like, okay, we're on this shared mission. So of course you want our websites, to be working properly. So I love what you're doing. You've shared some great tips, and I've learned some bits and pieces as well myself, which has been great. So I know this is going to be a popular episode with people. And of course, we'll put all your details on the show notes page, Dave, for Vegan Web Design, where people can get hold of you. So yes, to all our listeners, make sure you're keeping your websites maintained, and hire a professional to do it. And fantastic. Thank you so much for being on the show, Dave. It's been a pleasure. It's been fun. Thank you very much for having me.
So that was Dave Graham from Vegan Web Design. You can find out more at veganwebdesign.com. And that link is on the show notes page at veganbusinessmedia.com/podcasts and going to episode 128. Now for some vegan business news highlights. A French father and daughter fashion duo have raised nearly $1 million on Kickstarter for the production of their new multifunction high-end vegan sustainable bag, Bobo Bark. Elise Roussi is a 30-year veteran of the Paris fashion industry and founder of fashion house Cécile & Jean Paris. After a Parisian childhood surrounded by design and craftsmanship, his daughter Natasha grew up to be a designer with a passion for ethical fashion. Now, Ellie and Natasha have joined forces to create a new fashion house, La Flore, fueled by a passion for style, fine design, and concern for the environment. Their first offering is Bobo Bark, a handmade vegan designer bag that combines chic Parisian heritage with contemporary practicality, including convertible straps to allow the bag to be worn 3 ways, as a tote, a briefcase, and a backpack. The pair launched the Kickstarter campaign asking for just $15,000, but as of the time of this podcast, which is August 2019, if you're listening in the future, with just 22 days to go, they'd raised just over $800,000. Wow. I love seeing the fashion industry change for the better, and it's great to see how open Ellie was to moving away from leather after such a long time. Now, I received a sample of the Bobo Bark bag, which I was very impressed with, and I've done a Q&A interview with Ellie and Natasha on the Vegan Business Media blog, in which they share how Bobo Bark came about and what they did to make the crowdfunding campaign such a huge success. And there's a link to that Q&A on the show notes page for this episode, or by going to veganbusinessmedia.com. A Billion Veg, a social impact platform powering the plant-based movement, has secured another $2 million in seed funding led by California-based venture fund 500 Startups, bringing the company's total funding to $2.6 million. The company's investors include New York-based 10 Capital, Zurich-based Blue Horizon Group, Singapore-based Calibre Ventures, and family offices across Asia and the US. Hong Kong-based founder of Room to Read and prolific author John Wood has also come on board as an investor and advisor to A Billion Veg. The funding represents one of the largest seed rounds for a social impact startup in Southeast Asia and for a plant-based startup globally. Founded in Singapore, A Billion Veg is a community-driven review platform that helps people across the world find and share insights about plant-based menu items, packaged goods, and cruelty-free consumer products. Members earn credits when they post reviews, which convert into donations for animal and marine life welfare organisations. The company also sends consumer reviews to businesses, helping them to improve and introduce more sustainable options. Vikas Garg, founder and CEO of A Billion Veg, said the purpose-driven business has a goal of helping 1 billion people join the plant-based movement by 2030, and of donating $1 billion to support animal welfare and education causes. The company plans to donate $1 million in 2020. The A Billion Veg app is available to download on both iTunes and Google Play. This is great. I love this initiative where animal organisations get cash from everyday people simply doing reviews. It's a great incentive that's a win for everyone. What a creative idea. So that's it for this episode of Vegan Business Talk. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you enjoyed the show, I'd really appreciate it if you gave it a review and rating on iTunes or any other platform you're listening on. Finally, I encourage you to head over to veganbusinessmedia.com, where you can find more free resources as well as details of how we can work together to help you grow your vegan business. I'm Katrina Fox, author of Vegan Ventures, Start and Grow an Ethical Business, and I look forward to catching up with you in the next episode of Vegan Business Talk. Bye for now.